Good afternoon, and here are today's Tropics for September 18th, 2019. Uh, just as a note, I'm not a meteorologist, and this video is just a collection of my thoughts and opinions of the storms I'm talking about. And for any decision making, please consult the National Hurricane Center, your local officials, or your National Weather Service office. Now, first, we're looking at Tropical Depression Imelda. So as you can see, it's relatively well defined. It's moved quite a bit inland now. Uh, it, there is some actually westerly shear if you look at right here. It seems to be stemming from its own outflow. As you can see, there's a pretty well defined anticyclone right here that ends up having westerly flow into this region, which shears the system. As it's inland, it doesn't really mean much because it's not going to organize, obviously, and it doesn't affect if some thunderstorms can form because in this region we're seeing a burst right now, right here. So right now, the big impacts are rain. There's no real wind impacts anymore at all because it's a 25 knot tropical depression that's not very strong. But there is since it's a slow-moving storm, there is a possibility for some flooding rain. Uh, there's widespread 6 to 10 inches of rain expected in the next 3 days from this system. This is from the Weather Prediction Center. And you see it's pinprick of 10 inches rain expected. So you could flood if you are a flood prone area. You just might want to watch this again and prepare for any flooding if you do flood, usually. And of course, this doesn't mean, like, if you're here, this won't mean you have like 6 inches of rain. There could be like localized much higher amounts because you never know, like some thunderstorm could start and then dump a lot of rain that wasn't forecast and can't really be forecast. So these are general amounts of rain, but of course it can be locally higher. Uh, Even here it says local point maximum rainfall may be higher than shown. If we look next, Hurricane Humberto. Uh, Night is falling right now. As you can see, it's Bermuda's right here, so it's pretty much making its closest approach in Bermuda right now. And as you might if you look at this quickly, you might think, oh, it's at the edge. There aren't really many impacts, but there is something called parallax effect, which happens due to the angle the satellite is looking at. So Umberto might be a bit further south than the satellite makes you think. So maybe closer to around here. Anyway, it's closer to Bermuda. So it is having more impacts there than this image or this animation will show you, or make you think at least. So you can see the cold air is wrapping in here now. This kind of cloud pattern means that you have cool or cold air over warmer water. You can see it's kind of wrapping in here, and it appears there might be even a frontal type feature here coming southeast and south of Umberto. So it might be already beginning its extratropical transition. Right now, that this cold air hasn't really wrapped into the circulation, so it does remain generally tropical, at least for now. I can see there is that good outflow we've seen. This is due to the jet connection that has allowed for a lot of intensification despite not super great structure, since it's at 105 knots, so that's category 3. So if you look on the infrared imagery, you can see again there's this cooler air wrapping in from, as you can see, from the stratocumulus clouds, and then you got some isolated thunderstorms due to this feature here, and you can see that Umberto is getting less organized, at least as a tropical cyclone is the eye is pretty much gone and it's getting a bit more raggedy. So it might already be becoming a hybrid type system instead of a fully tropical system. So it makes sense as there is that cooler air starting to really get close to the circulation. So it might already be kind of, making the warm core less warm. It's also supposed to be hit by a lot of southwesterly shear soon. You can't really see too much of it right now, but the upper flow is moving a bit to the southwest or a bit to the northeast, as you can see right here. If I draw a line right about here where it starts, you can see it's moving to the northeast. But given that Humberto is also moving at a good clip northeast, this kind of cancels out and makes it seem that like there is actual outflow to more to the north, or to the south and west from this storm. So right now it's not getting hit but too hard, but the upper southwest flow should increase soon and really shear off a lot of this convection and make the hurricane into a more extratropical system in the next few days. But right now it does remain a hurricane, but it is showing signs that it might start transitioning away from being completely tropical soon. If you look at the latest National Hurricane Center cone, you can see that Bermuda here is in the hurricane warning. It's pretty much passing by it right now, so this is almost at the closest approach, and any impacts that are happening right now, you can see that there is a decently large hurricane force wind field, and that is clipping Bermuda right now, so they are likely feeling some of that right now. So again, if you have impacts occurring, so hopefully if you are in this area, you have prepared already for this storm, because it's happening right now. Yeah, if we look at Tropical Storm Jerry, it was named early this morning. So it's having a lot of like this kind of hot tower activity right now. You saw a big one earlier, and then there's another one right here. There's also some lower shears you can see. There's the well-defined kind of anticyclonic flow aloft, and there's almost a good amount of outflow in this direction too. So outflow is generally healthy, so shear isn't really a problem right now. So Jerry is in a favorable environment, at least for the time being. There are some inner core problems though. The low-level center has been a bit decoupled from the mid-level center due to some northerly shear that was around until today. So it has failed to really couple these low-level centers, or these two centers together, which would allow for the better organization. However, this hot tower activity here will help to kind of drag in a way the low level center into this convection where pressure can fall more efficiently and would be under that mid-level low. So this could be an attempt to couple, and then from there it has a better chance of strengthening and building like things like an eye wall instead of a spiral band that has right now. Take a look at the water vapor. It always gives us a great picture of the features around it. You see it's upper low to the northwest of this storm. So it's just spinning around, and right now it's ventilating Jerry. So we've got this flow coming up to the north here, but going more to this way. So you do have that upper divergence in this kind of area, and this southwesterly flow also helps the kind of enhance in a way the anticyclone right now. So it is ventilating the storm and allowing for the convection to bloom right now. This won't last too much longer though, because you do see this flow out of the west at the upper levels, heading near the storm. This outflow here should kind of wall a bit of it off for now, but it is going to run into some of the shear and is likely going to get sheared at least a bit. And then with that, you have this very, very dry air that the recon was finding earlier today. Like, it's very dry. You were seeing like one drop sonde actually had 10% relative humidity at 400 millibars. That's very dry. Is obviously quite unfavorable. So right now, due to low shear, it is able to generate convection with general ease. But if the shear is too bad on this system, it is going to infect some of that drier air into the circulation, which will hurt the ability to produce that convection. So a lot of things depend on how much it can strengthen while it is in this favorable area before it starts getting sheared, likely tomorrow. Because if it does get stronger, then it has possibility to kind of fill in this upper low bit more and weaken it some so that it doesn't get as disrupted. And then that means there's less of that shear and less of the drier air coming into the system, so it's kind of like a positive feedback. If it's stronger going into the shearing flow, then it's going to end up being stronger, stronger coming out of it because the conditions are less unfavorable. So a lot of things also depend on what it looks like after it's come out of this area. Is it stronger? Is it weaker? How disrupted is it? Because the track is quite dependent on the strength, because you can see there's northerly wind with height here. So if you have a stronger system, its vortex extends more to the upper levels, so it does feel more that upper level flow, which means instead of the low level, like kind of east to southeasterly flow that's in right now, which would steer it more to the north, it might kind of cancel a bit of that northward movement out and turn it more to the to like due west when it's up here. It really depends on, again, the strength, and we'll have to see what happens, because then if it is further south, it's further from the upper low and the shear is lower, and it's then stronger, and you can see it's another positive feedback. So there could be significant differences in track and strength depending on how strong it gets now before it starts getting sheared by this upper low, and then how strong it is after it kind of passes this area. So here's the latest cone from the National Hurricane Center. It's 5 p.m. advisory about 2 hours ago. Northeast Lesser Antilles here, you can see, are under a tropical storm watch. So there is a possibility that if it does go further to the south or expands and just keeps on the track that the National Hurricane Center has right now, that these areas could experience some tropical storm force winds. So the impacts here also are dependent on the strength, because if you do get that further south stronger system, then you will have much more significant impacts on these islands, which, yeah, really don't need that even 2 years after the fact, after Irma and Maria came through this area, because there are some ongoing recovery even now, because it's quite destructive. So yeah, we'll have to really see, because it's relatively uncertain right now. Maybe Friday, later Friday, we'll have to see how it's standing, where it is. Did it verify further north, south, and then we could see with better clarity the impacts on this area of the Lesser Antilles, and then some Greater Antilles, even if it is much stronger in the forecast. So you can see here too, there's a mid-latitude trough here that's going to come, and it's likely going to steer Jerry to the north and then curve it out to sea, so that has little impact on the United States. But there is a small, like, uh, there are a few members of the models that are taking it a bit further west as they're more south, and then don't really being further south don't really feel that that trough coming, because if you have a system up here that it's gonna get kicked out by by a trough, say coming down here, rather than the system that's down, say here. There's likely not going to be such a big discrepancy between the two. But you can see obviously this one's going to have a lot easier time getting just moved right out, but this one is a lot further, so it might not feel as much. So yeah, these are generally outliers. It's still likely that it does get caught up and turned out to sea. Well, maybe not out to sea, because there's a possibility that Bermuda gets a strike from this, even right after Humberto. So I won't say out to sea, but it it would go, it would miss the East Coast, and hopefully, especially the Northwest Bahamas. Uh, anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you for watching.